Okay. Meanwhile, it's been a long time ago. I mean, apart from the day we saw at church in Enugu, I don't think we had seen since we left school.
No, we've not actually.
And I see you're involved in rehabilitating or some action surrounding drugs. You want to tell me about that?
Sure, yes. I've been involved with the issues about drug abuse or in a bigger scope, substance abuse for some time now, both working on prevention, working on treatment, working on reintegration of the people. And it's been a hectic thing because it actually has to do with helping human beings return back to who they're supposed to be, or stopping human beings from initiating a habit that could be very detrimental to their well-being.
Yeah.
So it's been for some time now, more than 7 years I've been doing things around substance abuse.
Wow. 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 And what has the experience been like? I I'm sure it must have been eye-opening.
Yet is actually it was actually very much eye-opening because the mindset with which I went into it, the passion, the zeal with which I went into it, is not really the facts we are hidden. Again, there is this belief that everybody who uses drug is a criminal. There's this belief that there is a bad people that use substance. Um, but when you come in, you begin to understand better. When you interact with the people in question, when you get to know the facts about substance abuse disorders, you will know that just like everybody who got involved in something without knowing the consequences, without having a clear understanding of how this thing could end up, maybe because they had a trauma, they suffered some kind of trauma, and they were exposed to something as a coping mechanism, and along the way they don't even understand what they're actually doing, but they were doing it because it seems to be giving them a temporary relief at that time. You find out that by the time they get to understand what is going on, they themselves know that they have a problem, but the society, the perception of the society now worsens their condition because people don't understand them. People think that they morally bankrupt. People think that these people are all criminals. And so that complicates the issue of substance use. It really complicates. So it was quite eye-opening. In short, the most eye-opening event I had was when I carried out a survey with some drug users, convicts actually. They were convicts in the prison. And I requested for inmates who were ending their sentence. And I sat down with these people. I was doing a piece on, and I was shocked what I learned from them because everything they said was contrary to what I believed before that particular survey. I just wanted to know the effect, how cannabis influences crime, marijuana influences crime. And what they told me can be summarized under 3 points. Number one, that cannabis in itself does not induce an action to you. Cannabis already only exposes who you are. That is, if you're a criminal and you use cannabis,
Okay.
it'll bring out who you are as a criminal. So that what cannabis does is that it exposes you. It exposes your already concluded plan. Again, so that's one. Then number two was the environment of initiation. If it happened that you learned how to use drugs or use cannabis amongst criminals, then there is a high tendency that their collective effect will have an environmental influence on you. You are going to do what they do after they take cannabis because you will learn their habits. But if it happened that you took cannabis among professionals, which is a fact that there are still professionals that take cannabis, lawyers, doctors, are cut across all professions. that when you finish doing, if that you came around and you just wanted to have fun, you finish doing it, you pack your things and go home, because they know they have to go to work, and you know you have to go to work tomorrow. I guess so. That's the second one. Then number 3 is your economic status. That if you are poor, then cannabis and then other drugs will have a very negative effect on you, because you won't be taking care of yourself. Your nutrition, your nutritional status will be very poor. So that drugs will have a very, very negative effect on your body, health-wise. And then you'll be forced to try to get drugs by stealing if you're already dependent and you don't have money to keep up with your drug use. So that 3 things, who you are, the environment which you take drug, and your economic status will really have effect on you. However, there were the issues of dependency, which says that if you keep taking, a time will come you will lose control of taking drugs, and that at that time it will begin to affect everything about you negatively. So that particular experience changed, it did a 360 turnaround of my perspective on drugs. So I began, first of all, to have issues with our current drug law, how it is, how we are approaching this drug thing. That actually the government policies, we are doing more harm than the drugs. And funny enough, not long after I had such turnaround in my perspective, I read a quote by the late Kofi Annan, where he said, drugs have killed many people, but wrong government policies on drugs have killed much more people than the drugs itself. So it was an eye opener. It was an eye opener. First, I began to find out these people are, first of all, human beings, and you will be shocked how these inmates talk. One of the most funny thing about it is that even when you lock them up in the prison, they still have access to substances. They still do have access within that place. Are you getting me?
Yeah.
So that approach was not working at all. It was not working at all. So we find out that it's either we have to shift the narrative about this and begin to talk to government to change the way we are looking at substance abuse. And as that is happening, then there could be investment, because honestly, until recent time, there's practically no capacity on substance use disorder treatment. No capacity, because it's criminalized. Even in the universities, in the health courses, you are not well schooled on addiction. As a pharmacist, all that was in our pharmacology textbook on addiction, I don't think it's more than 2 pages.
Wow.
On drugs of addiction. Nothing much about how to treat it. Nothing, because of the position it's seen as a criminal thing. There was no need to build capacity.
Okay, so let me cut you short, please, because this was supposed to be a very short, a very short discussion, but it's not looking like it's going to be short at all. It's not looking like it's going to be short. A very simple question. In your experience, okay, why do people use drugs or banned substances? Why?
Wonderful. There are so many things, so many reasons. I can put it into different class. Let me say inherent issues. Number 1, genetic, prenatal exposure. When a pregnant woman tends to use substances while she's pregnant, she's already predisposing the child, the unborn child, to use drugs. Number 1. Yes. When a pregnant woman can comfortably down about 2 bottles of beer, or carelessly be using benzodiazepines, I mean Valium 5 and all those things, she's actually exposing the child to that, or some opioids, or on uncontrolled use of tramadol or morphine. These things have effect. 2, there is a family family history of use. When a child is born in a family where drug use is a normal thing, you're already predisposing the child. 3, there is trauma, whether physical, emotional, sexual abuse, inability to cope. 4, there are mental health issues. You see, most people are born with some kind of mental deformities. They suffer anxiety disorder, but it's not so obvious to people. They are quite depressive, and somehow they stumble that if you're having anxiety, alcohol is a depressant. So whenever you drink it, it tends to calm you down. Or whenever you use the Valium 5, it tends to calm you down. Or whenever you use cannabis, it tends to calm you down. You get? Then for young people, you have the peer pressure thing. You have the issues of dysfunctional family. You have the issues of hardship. You have the issues of acceptable social norm. You and I know from our place in the Igbo culture, you cannot do a wine carrying without some heavy bottles or cartons of bottles.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's even becoming a regular thing that if you're doing a burial, you expected to provide money for each anya for the young men.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. If you look around culturally, these things in some events are accepted. I remember I had to put my foot on ground to change the requirement of wine carrying in my community, because one of the requirements is that you must pack, is it about 3 cartons packs of cigarettes? You must, apart of with the wine, the drink, you say is a must that you must supply it.
Wow.
For the youth. So you find out that these are the things that lead people to use drugs. That you have unhealthy expectations. There's a guy who he didn't have the capacity to be an engineer, but the father was an engineer, and the father wanted him to be an engineer. He failed his jam, and the father took him abroad, and they still got him to do engineering in a university. After his first semester, his result was so poor. The guy was just trying to chill out in a bar. He was going to a bar regularly, and somebody observed him for some time. Like, you're always sad. What is it? He said, I don't know. This school, I can't understand what is happening to me. The guy said, okay, why don't you put on this thing? It will help your mood. And that's how he was introduced to opioids. And that was it for him. And so it became something he was using to cope. Now, we've talked about the issue of peer pressure. Then there are people that out of curiosity, they want to experiment. Now, but there are some things that people don't know. Let's not lie. The euphoria that drugs can give you, very few things can give it that to you. You see, there's something that's called dopamine in the brain. That is what makes you extremely happy, rejoice, excite. Anything that gives you excitement in proportion to the quantity of dopamine it releases in your brain.
Okay.
So for some people that like good food, you get when they eat that food, it's dopamine. It triggers quite dopamine in their brain. If it's normal relationship, man, woman, sex, it gives you that level of a release of dopamine. But some drugs can give you 250 times what sex can give you release of dopamine. So
What?
we will not deny the fact that, yet, you will not deny the fact that this thing can give a level of euphoric state that you don't have. So a person that can start experiment it could be caught by that euphoric state, the desire to keep seeking that particular euphoric state. It makes you wow. You've not. It's like moonwalking. You forgot all your problems. You are in such a happy mood. And so, unfortunately, because the cannabis or drug use is so criminalized, people are not being taught. People are not given opportunity to understand the process, to know when they know, I want to stop this. Let me give you an example. He initiates use of drug. The euphoric experience makes him like it. After some time, he wants to test it again. After some time, he wants to test it again. Then gradually, in the course of 2-3 months, he will if he doesn't use that drug, he doesn't feel very all right with himself. Then he tries to use the drug at the same dose he used to use. He will notice that he doesn't receive that euphoric effect again.
Yeah.
And wrongly, it begins to be interpreted by the ignorant colleagues that also smoke that your head is now strong, that you need to increase your usage. Are you getting me? Are you getting the process
Yes,
now?
yes,
They,
yes.
they begin to tell you that your head is now strong. You get that you need to increase your usage. So if, for example, he started with 1 wrap of cannabis and he was getting the high, after 3-4 months, depending on how frequent he was using it because he was looking for that high, he will be advised that he gotten a strong head. Let him increase to 2. So he begins to use 2. After a scope of 6 months to 8 months, he begins to, your head is now stronger. 2 doesn't have effect on you again. Now you can use 3. Meanwhile, what is happening is that his brain is adapting
Yeah.
to the foreign chemical that is coming in.
Yeah.
And then suddenly one day he feels, I don't want to use this thing. And then he noticed that he's having an unbelievable headache. His hands is shaking. He can't even sleep. And he complains to his friends. They say, why now? The headache they do you. I use this drug now. The drug they help him. He takes the drug and he recovers. So in his mind, the drug becomes a treatment to some bodily element he experiences, not that he consciously said he wants to drop, but that maybe he normally takes about 4 or 5 a day. But after some time, or for some days, he missed taking up to that 4 or 5. And his body begins to do somehow. And he takes and gets better. So in his mind, this drug helps him to be better.
It becomes therapy.
Without knowing that he's, it becomes therapeutic to him. Without knowing that it is a self-inflicted illness, which is caused by the drug he has been overusing. By the process, that process should have been a warning. If he had knowledge, if this thing, the approach on drug abuse was taken from the public health approach, that people can easily be taught. You get the universities will build capacity of health professionals to actually talk to people about substances. So what should have been a warning signal to him becomes a stimulating state, in the sense that you have a stronger head. You can increase the quantity of drug you are taking. Are you getting me?
Yes.
So by the time he notices it, he finally knows that, I can't do without this substance. So that's when you say the person has substance use disorder.